Hello, everyone, and a very happy Star Wars Day to you all. I'm Satsu, and today I'm going to be talking about the newly released series Star Wars The Bad Batch. Now, during the lockdown, I managed to get the chance to catch up on quite a few series that I neglected to watch over the years, one of which, of course, being Star Wars The Clone Wars. And when it first came out, I wasn't really invested in it. I really didn't think it was all that great. But of course, because of the lockdown, I managed to get the chance to catch up on it. And you know what? I loved it. I honestly think it's one of the best series that Star Wars has produced over the last couple of years. And of course, when I heard that after season 7 had finished, they were going to be releasing a spin off called The Bad Batch. And initially, I didn't really know what to think. I thought, is it going to be good? Is it going to be more of a cash grab? There was no real way to tell. But after watching the first episode, entitled Aftermath, today, I've got hope for the series. And yeah, I am very hopeful to see what they're going to produce in the next couple of weeks. So, what is The Bad Batch? For those of you who don't know what this series is about, The Bad Batch is set around the ending of the Clone Wars, around the same time as the ending of Revenge of the Sith, where the Republic has essentially fallen and the rise of the Empire has taken full effect. The story focuses on five main clone troopers who are considered by their peers to be genetically defective, yet possess a very special ability of their own. You have Hunter, who is the Rambo type figure and the leader of the group. Echo, who was initially a normal clone trooper, who was unfortunately augmented. He has now become more machine than man. The show's words, not mine. Crosshair, a very sassy sniper and not a very nice person, but we'll get to that. Wrecker, who is the resident tough man, and last but not least, the tech wizard, known as Tech. And yeah, each of them play a very distinct role, and looking at them by their designs and everything, you can tell which person does what, and it's a very interesting choice. So, before I jump into my thoughts about this episode, I just want to warn you now that there will be spoilers in this video. So, if you haven't watched the episode yet and you don't want it spoiled for you, then please feel free to go away, pause the video, and go watch this on Disney Plus. The first episode is already out and it's about over 70 minutes, I would say. Well worth the watch, but yeah, just a warning. Okay, you good? Let's start. So let's start with the good parts of this series. First of all, I think the animation, as always, is just absolutely fantastic. Kind of following on from Series 7 of the Clone Wars, they have really kept up the standard. And I know that was kind of a running joke that Series 1 of the Clone Wars in 2008 looked very wooden and plasticky, but the same thing can be said for this series. It looks a lot better, and as I said, following from the heels of Season 7 of the Clone Wars, it just looks great. Another really good thing I think that this episode did really well was the kind of continuation of the story. So, as I said, this is set around the same time as the ending of Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine has, of course, just taken power and he is declaring his intention to basically run as the Supreme, well, not the Supreme Chancellor, but the Emperor of the new Galactic Empire. And I thought it was quite good that they included a couple of recap scenes at the very beginning, very much like the Clone Wars series, where they showed you some battles. Well, some battles from the final episodes of Season 7, but also some scenes that have been recreated from Revenge of the Sith, which I thought was a neat touch. And of course, we get landed just before Order 66 gets executed, and the very last mission carried out, really, by the Bad Batch themselves, where they are basically supporting a Jedi Master and her Padawan against another separatist threat, who would have thought it in the Clone Wars. And yeah, I thought they did a really good job of that, as well as kind of integrating other characters into the mix, such as Tarkin, who comes later on to judge the or really comes to assess the clone troopers on Camino, and really makes his disdain well known. So he leaves like such a good impact. What I also loved, or rather appreciated, was the fact that the clone troopers are pretty much voiced by one guy. That, of course, being D. Bradley Baker, who honestly puts such an individual twist on each character that he voices, whether it be Echo or Wrecker or Hunter, all of them. Even the regular clone troopers. Like, he does such a good job of distinguishing them, and you know what? Props to him for voicing so many characters. I think it's like really good. One thing I do want to point out as well is how I am so glad that. So, as I said before, Palpatine basically gives his speech of establishing the first galactic empire to rule and to have, peace and prosperity, all the good stuff, as you know from the original trilogy. And that goes back to my idea of, or really my praise of this series for being such a good continuation. But all I can say is, I am really glad that this speech was included in the Bad Batch and not like an extra scene in something like Fortnite. So, you know what? Props. Props. The show also introduces a new character called Omega, who is a young girl that seems to take a liking to the Bad Batch because she considers them her friends since she too appears to be an outcast on the cloning facility. Honestly, I don't know what category to put Omega in yet. I feel as if it's early days because when I heard this character getting introduced, I thought, okay, this is Disney's, token child character where we are going to see the world through this character's eyes, which I have to admit doesn't really happen too much in this episode, and she doesn't come off as overly annoying, which is a refreshing change of pace compared to some of the other child's like characters we've had in the other series. Of course, later on, it is revealed that the reason she takes such a liking to the Bad Batch is because she herself is a genetically defective clone who seems to just be lingering on Camino for whatever reason. And judging by like her hair colour, her style and clothing, I don't know if she is meant to just be another clone of another Mandalorian. I'm not quite sure because they don't reveal it in the first episode, but I'm quite curious to see where they go with this character and why she was on Camino in the first place. So it'll be quite interesting. Although one of the things I have to kind of criticise the show for just a little bit, because I get it, it's an all ages show. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, where is my gritty war drama with lasers? But one of the scenes was when she's first introduced to the Bad Batch, and she turns around and she basically goes, oh, there's Hunter, Echo, Crosshair, Wrecker, Tech. I was honestly expecting her to turn round to the camera and be like, oh, all available at your local toy shop, which I kind of thought, okay, dial it back a bit. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm curious to see where they go with her character. Oh boy, okay, let's get on to the bad bits. And some of these are a bit nitpicky, so apologies, but I don't know. I really don't know. First of all, the food fight scene. What the heck was that about? So there's a scene where it almost feels as if it's like Mean Girls in space, where Omega finds the Bad Batch sitting in the mess hall, basically eating, and she gets ridiculed by, like, just regular clone troopers who are like, oh, I guess they're the sad bunch. And you think, Order 66 was to kill the Jedi, not be massive butts about everything. You know, like, don't don't be an ass, essentially. Don't be horrible. But yeah, so she throws her food, and then Wrecker, who is the big tough guy, ends up throwing his food, and there's like this massive brawl in the mess hall, and I just feel as if it came out of nowhere. I just, it's not the worst scene in it, but yeah, it just felt really weird, considering that, like, the reputation that Bad Batch have. I don't know whether it's because the clones have changed due to Order 66, or I don't know, but they're just suddenly all really mean to them, and you're like, huh, okay, but fair enough. But again, not a huge thing to detract from the episode. Another thing is the character, of course, of Saw Gerrera. I do not like Saw. I mean, I thought his character in Rogue One was okay, but I feel as if Disney, or just the shows in general, keep trying to shove him in wherever they can for some weird reason. I don't quite get why. Like, I can understand in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Those are the two instances I think, okay, it makes sense, because the Clone Wars kind of explores his backstory, and Rebels, I suppose, fleshes him out a little bit more, considering he got barely any, character development in Rogue One. But then they kind of just introduce him in this. So basically, the context for why he's in the series is the Bad Batch to get tested for basically their loyalty to the Empire. They have been instructed to take out these insurgents who are conspiring to attack them. And they, of course, find out it's basically a convoy, or not a convoy, but a camp of women, children, freedom fighters, and of course Saw Gerrera's there, which, again, it's not like a massive thing, but it just feels weird that there's all these kind of named characters who are just suddenly popping up. So you're like, oh, it's the guy from Rogue One. It's, again, not a huge thing, but it just feels as if that whole scene kind of sidetracked from basically the plot. But other than that, again, that's a minor thing. One of the other things, though, that I really do not understand, this is one of my major gripes of the episode, is the character of Crosshair. So Crosshair in Clone Wars was characterised to be very, how to put this, very snappy and very dismissive, and oh, look at me, I'm a very good sniper shot. So that's his gimmick, he is a very good sniper. But throughout this episode, there are at least 3 separate instances where he tries to kill children. And I keep thinking, what is this? Like, is this Anakin 2.0? Was he watching the holovids thinking, man, that Anakin is so cool, yeah, I want to try and kill, like, Jedi children and things. It's like, what is your problem? And the only reason I say that is because, so as I said, first instance is at the very beginning where, other than, this, like, other scene, Order 66 is enacted, and Crosshair. Yeah, it's Crosshair. Crosshair seems to be the only one whose inhibitor chip goes off, so he finds nothing wrong with what's going on. And there is quite a funny scene where somebody says, oh, the Jedi have committed treason, and he goes, makes sense. And his commanding officer, Hunter, is just like, no, none of this makes sense, and it doesn't. But yeah, in the first case, he sees that the Jedi Master gets gunned down by the rest of the troopers, and another Jedi Padawan is with the Master. But of course, he runs away into the forest. So Hunter and Crosshair try to grab him and get him back. And Crosshair, for some reason, because of his chip, ends up shooting upon this poor Padawan, who is of course revealed to be Kanan from the Star Wars Rebels series, Which, on the one hand, I think, okay, that's pretty interesting, but on the other hand, I'm like, it's another name dropped character. Um, I don't know, like, it's not the worst thing, as I said, but yeah, eventually, like, Crosshair tries to kill this Padawan, and then after, like, missing him several times, he, like, goes into a strop saying, to his commanding officer, oh, you didn't kill him properly, and you think, you know what, chill with the child killing. And then the second instance is when they go to clear out the insurgent camp, which of course is where Saw Gerrera is with the other refugees. And it's filled with like old, women and children and things like that. And he's aiming at this poor old woman's head like, give me the order, Chief, I'm ready. And you're like, what is your deal? I get why, but it's just kind of annoying that Hunter didn't pull him up for this kind of behaviour. And then, of course, the third instance is when they're all trying to escape, but of course, Crossfire has been. Crosshair, sorry, not Crossfire. Crosshair is, he has been turned completely, so he is firing on them. And again, he aims for the child, and you're like, what is your problem, Crosshair? What is your problem? Yeah, it's just Hunter seems very like. I mean, even the other characters turn around and they say, they question Crosshair, like, when was this a bother that we didn't follow orders? And he's just like, he does the whole good soldiers follow orders, and it's clear he's been brainwashed, but none of the others seem to pick up on it until the end, and you're like, surely you would have, you know what? Again, it's just like, it's a bit of a weird one. The only other character I really don't like is Wrecker, and maybe this is a bit of an unpopular opinion, but it's just my personal preference. I'm not saying he's a bad character entirely, but it's just the fact he seems to just spout the kind of generic strongman who is dumb kind of lines, like, oh, I want to blow up stuff, and that's his character, and he's very loud, and he just stomps everywhere, and like, there's some scenes where you can clearly tell that they were filmed for the trailer when he says things like, oh, I like this guy, oh, I like this, and you think, oh, just stop, please, Wrecker, just stop. He's not the worst character, he's not a bad character by any means, but yeah, it was just kind of annoying in that regard. And honestly, one last nitpick before I kind of summarise to you what I thought overall. Kanan's voice. I mean, maybe I'm just the only one that noticed this. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but I feel as if. So, Kanan is the Padawan at the very beginning, who of course grows up to be the. Basically, one of the main characters in Star Wars Rebels. And he is. I don't know, it's just his voice doesn't seem to have changed from that show to this one. So he's like got the body of a child, yet for some reason he has like the voice of like a young man. So it's like it is kind of a weird like contrast. I don't get it, but you know what? It is a minor thing. But it is weird hearing that voice coming out of that kind of character model. So, overall, what do I think about Star Wars The Bad Batch? You know what? I really enjoyed it. There were, of course, one or two things that I kind of thought were a bit iffy. But overall, for a first episode of what will hopefully be a long running series, I'm curious to see where they go with it. Because this is a series, or rather, this is a period of Star Wars that, as far as I know, maybe beyond the books and the. Really everything else, beyond the books, beyond the comics, isn't really a period that's focused on a lot during, like, the films or other series. During the transition from the Republic to the Empire, because usually we see the end of the Republic, which is kind of like a hard stop that all of a sudden clone troopers stop and then stormtroopers just appear, and there's not really a kind of transition period where we get to see things slowly evolve over time. It's either you've got clone troopers or you've got stormtroopers. So I'm actually really hyped to see where they go with that and to see the kind of gradual progression into what will soon, of course, become the Galactic Empire. And I am really curious to see where this series goes. I'm curious to see what Omega's all about. Not really curious about Crosshair. I think that they're going to go the cliche route of he's either going to sacrifice himself or he is going to come back at the end and be a good guy. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I get the feeling, though, that they're going to name drop a lot more characters. I know that Captain Rex is meant to be involved in the later series. And I don't know. I don't know if characters like Ahsoka Tano, I don't know if she's going to be in it. I don't know if. It's hard to tell who's going to be in it and who isn't. I know they'll obviously get a couple. I mean, we've already had Tarkin, we've had Saw, and we have had. In fact, do you know who we actually did have? We had the AZ robot. Yeah, I feel sorry for it. So, before you wonder, like, who the heck's AZ? AZ was one of the robots in Camino who helped one of the other clone troopers escape. During it was like a conspiracy episode when they actually find out about Order 66 and the chips. And it seems like a really kind of minor addition, but I thought kind of ones like that were really neat. Yeah, as I said, I am curious to see where they go with this series, and I can't wait for next week when hopefully the next episode comes out. The only major criticism I would have with this episode, that they didn't drop all the episodes in one. So, yeah. But yeah, that is my kind of rambling opinions, really, about, or really my first impressions about Star Wars The Bad Batch. If you've watched this episode, then please feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think about the series. Tell me about your predictions, where you think the series is going to go. Because I'd really love to hear what you guys think about it, and whether or not you think it's going to be good, it's going to be bad. Let me know. I'm really curious to hear. So, of course, as always, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, and most importantly, may the 4th be with you. Bye, guys.